I'm joined now by Bridgewater-Raynham head football coach, Dan Buron. Coach, thank you for taking the time to do this interview.
Well, thank you for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right, so the first few questions here, we'll just kind of get to know you a little bit. How has your life been affected by this coronavirus pandemic? How have you and your family been holding up so far?
We've been like everybody else. We've been, surviving and adapting. But no, we've been good. Fortunately, my wife and my son, we've all stayed healthy. Clearly, like everyone else, our lives have came to a screeching halt, and then slowly, you can figure out what you're doing. But it's been great. I think as difficult as it's been, it's also you kind of go back to the old days and having meals at home together, and instead of everybody going in a million different directions, and a lot of quality time. It's overall, I think it's been positive. I'm not saying I want to continue like this, but I try to see the positive. I try to walk every day. I was walking every day, and I go all over town. People saw me, and had to stay on the sidewalk. So some people were trying to get me, but and just seeing a lot of people like in the yard saying hello. It's like the other people are a lot more friendly, most of them anyways. But it was just good to see people, being creative of how to with neighbors and stuff, and doing things. And I've also noticed people seem to be, not that they didn't do it in the past, but it seemed like helping out a lot more and pitching in and doing things for other people. So I think, we're all resilient, and we've all figured out how to survive, and it's getting better. This vaccination process, when finally they figure that out and get, a good chunk of us vaccinated, we should start seeing something. I don't know if we'll ever go back to the way it was, and maybe we shouldn't either. I mean, so you got to learn from this. But me personally, it's been great. So no complaints.
Yeah, there certainly is some silver linings, but yeah, not my favorite pandemic so far. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do another one. I surely can't wait 100 years like the last one. So, but
we're pros now at this. So we'll move into your role as athletic director. During this pandemic, how has your role been affected during this pandemic, doing all this scheduling? Most teams have been playing a conference-only schedule. If they do play out of conference, it's usually a very, neighboring town, very close town. How has your role as AD been affected during this pandemic?
Oh, it's clearly been affected. I think that I'll go back to last spring when, we were changing schedules week to week, and finally they shut it all down. So then that was kind of a sobering blow, especially for the athletes. I mean, as adults, we survived, but then going into the fall, the unknown and the uncertainty, and when they finally allowed us to have a season, everybody was so excited, but there's a lot more administrative duties that go along with it, just practices and scheduling. So we've been averaging in all the sports that we've had so far about 60% of the games that we normally have. So I think that's great. I mean, and it's just good to see kids out playing and running around, because for a lot of them, that might be the only time they see their friends. If you're not in the same cohort, going to school, you don't see each other as often as you used to. So a lot more paperwork in terms of tracking, and then and instead of planning things out weeks or months at a time, it's all, literally, if you go out 1 week, that might be too far, because things can change in a day with, particularly, a student or even an adult comes in and gets COVID, and the close contact, the contact tracing, the sanitation, all the mitigation policies that were, to put in place. Not difficult, but just a little bit different, more time consuming, maybe different, but I think by now we're all of us as athletic directors and coaches are somewhat used to dealing with all this stuff. And we found the winter maybe a little bit more difficult because you were indoors at facilities, and now that we're back outside, it makes it a little bit easier, but you still, as a coach and an athletic director, you got to make sure that kids are wearing their masks, and even coaches, but making sure they're socially distant. You got to, as a coach, you set up practice a little bit different and try to be a little bit more creative. So than the old way of doing things. So, the old way of doing things in any sport is non-existent right now. But the actual games themselves are pretty much like the old days. There are some modifications. A football player has to wear a mask. I mean, soccer and all the other modifications. People complain when they first came out, but then you realize if you don't do those modifications, the only other option is don't play. So
right.
So this alternative is better than nothing.
Right. And all the sports, they don't have a state champion. They're just ending with a league championship pretty much. Do you think the kids are bothered by that, or do you think they're just glad to get out there and play?
I think the kids are just glad to get out there and play, and then just about every league in the fall and then created their own little like conference championships. In our league, we only have 5 teams. So we had like the 4th and 5th ranked team based on records. Played like a playing game. Then we had, 1 versus 4, 2. So, yep. And the kids really seem to enjoy that. We had a regular season and you try to pick up a couple non-league games to fill out because everybody had a bye. So it worked well. I think the spring athletes, we all feel at the state that they should get some type of postseason because they lost it last year. So right. As far as the state championship is concerned, I mean, it sounds good, but after a sectional tournament, a regional tournament, you're really talking about, like say in each division, 4 teams going to a state semifinal and 2 teams to the state final. So I think the mindset of most athletic directors is let's get more games for everybody. So it looks like we're going with a sectional tournament for the spring, and I think kids will enjoy that because I think there's something to shoot for. But we're all still trying to keep our league championships and maybe even a league conference intact because you're right. You mentioned like a lot of leagues the larger leagues aren't going out of their league for non-league. They're doing crossovers within the divisions. Mm-hmm. The smaller leagues like the Southeast Conference, that's a little more difficult because we can't find non-league games like we used to. So, but I think the majority of kids don't get to, I mean, almost half the teams in the years past never got to a state tournament. So half the teams are done. So I think we're all trying to emphasize the regular season, league competition. Even as a coach, as a football coach, my main goal is to win a league, and then the playoffs is secondary. It's a goal, but you got to, always if we qualify for the tournament. But for the longest time in football, we had to win a league so to get to the tournament. So that was your number one goal. You couldn't get to those other goals if you didn't achieve that first one. So I think the rivalries of a league is still there, and the kids, they tend to know the league opponents a little bit better. Yeah, it's nice at the end. I think sometimes it's the adults that want the state championships and things, or if you're a really good team, if you got a lot of kids coming back, I want to make that run for the state championship. If you've graduated a lot of people, you might, hey, I'd rather play, say 16 regular season games, just have, get my younger kids some experience for the future.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So bunch of different ways of looking at it, and we're not going to, no matter what we decide, we're not going to please everybody. But at the end of the day, it's about the kids. It's really not about the adults.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that the spring athletes finally, they get their season, because last year it got ripped away from them. And I can only just feel so bad for the seniors that they played in their last game their junior year and they had no idea that it was their last game. So I'm glad that they finally got their season.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I really feel bad for those seniors, and our seniors right now, they're getting something, and I think back in the fall when we were talking about fall sports, and some leagues were talking about pushing the soccer and field hockey and those sports off to this fall too, and I was adamant with our league, and thank God we did it. Let's get it in now, because we didn't know if this fall tour was even going to go. And I said, can you imagine if we didn't do it in the fall? So you just got to seize the opportunity when it arises, and looking back, maybe we could have done football, but you know what, we're doing it now and it's fine. It's different. And, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And you brought up football too. And of course the MIAA, as you mentioned, did bring out fall 2 sports season. So teams that didn't normally get to compete in the fall get to do so in the spring. Before this fall 2 was announced, did it ever cross your mind that football may not even happen at all during the academic year?
Oh yeah, it crossed my mind just about every day, and I think that even the night before we started, I think so February 21st, I wasn't sure if I was going to wake up Monday morning, they're the first out of practice, and something had happened and they changed. So, yeah, I think that's one thing we learned early on, that nothing's guaranteed. So, I mean, like I said, so I think, me personally, and I think for the current seniors, going through that fall and like having weekends free, and for me, it's like 7 days a week from August through Thanksgiving, and really strange Thanksgiving morning, waking up and going for a walk, and I walked down the field here, and there's like, since my childhood, on Thanksgiving morning, I attended or played or coached in a Thanksgiving Day football game, and I just, you stop and think about the magnitude of that all across this state. And there were empty stadiums on Thanksgiving morning when they used to be chock full. So, and that's when the reality hit. And I said, geez, I hope for these kids' sake, of the seniors, that we can get a season in no matter what, even if we get one game in. It'll be, we went down and had a scrimmage last week, and it was so good our kids were so excited to go against another group of kids, a different, I think competition is great for the kids. So, Oh, yeah. I mean, that reality of not having a season hit hard for a lot of people, and I still say the underclassmen, hopefully the juniors, seniors, and sophomores on our team are going to have a season next year. I don't know what it'll look like. It may still be modifications, but some of these seniors, this is it for them. Piggyback to what you said. I mean, think about a senior baseball player or lacrosse player last year who may not play in college. That was going to be their last chance to get on a field. Right. So, I think it's really all about the kid. It should be about the kids all the time, but I'm really focused as a coach this year and for my seniors, to make sure that they, get the best experience they can get.
Yeah, right. It was truth there, to piggyback off your comment about Thanksgiving Day. I mean, all of us at BTV too, we were kind of wondering, like, what do we do now? We're used to getting up at 6 a.m. and setting up all of our equipment. And it was nice to sleep in. That was for sure. But it was definitely different not having Thanksgiving football this year.
I can remember where I was about 9 o'clock. I was out for a walk. I think I was on Summer Street, and Peter Colombo, the Brockton coach, called me and said, hey, and it was beautiful at 9 o'clock. And I said, I was working my way back through town. I was going to go up by the field. I said, Peter, it would be a great day for football because it was warm. But right about 10 o'clock, when we would have been up at Brockton this year, but I don't know where you were, but I was down here on the field, and it came down in buckets. I'm like, oh, as the one time I was glad I wasn't on a sideline, but we always talk about 2 years ago, nothing could be worse than how cold it was that day. But no, I would have much rather been soaking wet coaching a football game on a Thanksgiving morning than I got soaking wet anyways, just standing like a dummy. I was out there, no, that was a sobering, I guess the pandemic really hit, for the coaches and the players, when there was nothing going on that day,
Does the idea of spring football excite you, or do you rather have it in the fall?
Oh, I think it belongs in the fall. I always said years ago that they should play baseball in the fall and football in the spring because, we come out in the dead heat, try to get kids in shape with equipment on, and by the time we're in shape, it's cooler. You could flip it. And in baseball, they go out in the cold weather and start throwing baseballs and hurt their arms or whatever. Let them play all summer. But, I always say, play your last baseball game on Thanksgiving. We can play the last football game on Memorial Day, but that's never going to happen. No, football belongs in the fall. I like the idea of this, maybe I don't think it'll ever happen. Like this could be like a spring practice, like they do in other states and they do in college. You could have a little wedge season here when the kids could, maybe limit it, and I'm this way off topic here, but I'm thinking outside the box.
Go ahead.
It would, I'm not doing this because I'm not coming back this year, but I've talked to some other coaches who really, they don't have a lot of seniors and they're underclass. They're gearing this short season. They're getting ready for next year already, And I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking at developing younger players for next year but it will never happen where they would allow, spring. You wouldn't get the games. You might be able to get practices, but again, going back to it, it's great to be out here, but it needs to go back to the fall. It's just, there's some things that I don't think you can mess around with,
Yeah. And there's so many adjustments that you have to make now during this pandemic. What have been some of the biggest challenges for you preparing your football team? You know, the kids have to stay 6 feet apart. Your team boxes have been expanded. What have been some of the challenges for you preparing your team during this pandemic?
Just those things you said. You got to try to socially distance, try to keep them in small groups for instruction. God forbid if someone gets COVID and you don't do that and you're not organized, you could wipe out the entire team for a 10-day quarantine. So you have to be creative. And keep them socially distanced and they have their mask on. Then if someone does get it, you can say, hey, we have taken all the steps and almost even position-wise, you get into groups and you don't have all your starters in one group because you could lose a whole linebacking core, a whole offensive line if you're not careful. So, that's probably the toughest thing. And, water breaks now. Everybody brings their own water. They have to 6 feet apart. And, it's different, but the kids get used to it. I think kids adapt much more easier than the adults. They always have, and it's like, can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I'm an old dog, so it's hard. But the kids are young dogs, young pups, and they can adjust a lot more easily than I can. So if I can figure it out, they can figure it out. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
I know you talked about this a little bit earlier too, but going back to the point of the no state champion, how do you prepare knowing that ultimate goal isn't there? Do you think it's going to be harder for the coaches, or do you think it's going to be harder for the kids to prepare knowing that the league or the season's just going to end with that league championship and no state title?
I mean, that's something you can't control. So, I think we all wish there was a state playoff and a state champion. But again, I'll go back to a lot of people never get there, So I think, again, kids are just grateful that 5 or 6 games and playing for a league conference championship is better than nothing. So, and, we've always we try to just focus 1 week at a time. And it's we're going down to Middleborough this week. That's the most important game on our schedule. And then, because, again, I think we've all realized this already, that the rug can be pulled out at any minute. So just take what's available to you at the time and appreciate it and relish it, because it can be taken away. So those other things, can't worry about the things I can't control. I can't have. We know there's no state championship, so it's over. We've got to move on and just deal with the schedule that's in front of us.
I like it. And you mentioned this earlier. It is your final season at BR. What are your goals personally for your final season here at the regional?
Try to enjoy it a little bit more. I think in the last couple of years, I was always so focused, on the now, and now I'm starting to look back and, realize that what we've accomplished, all of us over the years here, players and coaches, and I've just been a small part of it. And so to try to, I have some great memories. Been a lot of sacrifice and a lot of time and effort, but I wouldn't trade it. I think I've gotten more out of it than I put into it, and I put a lot into it. Trust me. But I'm really focused on the seniors. They're a great group of kids. I've always leaned on my seniors every year, no matter what. I think every coach does that, but this year in particular, because, like I say, we're going to Middleborough this week, and I hope we get 5 other games in, but it might be the only one. So it just appreciate what you have, I guess. I'm probably, I know I've been a little bit too difficult or too, I'm not sure what the right word is, too focused on the now and not really enjoying the big experience, and I think the last few years realizing that, football games are not just about wins and losses. It's about the personal experiences and so, reflection is easy, but saying that I got to get to work for Middleborough. We're playing them tomorrow night. It's going to be a tough game. So, but I guess the life lessons, the kids are great. They've been awesome. The kids, the Bridgewater-Raynham kids, and I've worked at other schools a long time ago. The BR kids are unique. They work hard. They're great kids, and so I just got to enjoy it, and realize that, hey, there's more serious things in life. The game for these kids is at the time is the most serious thing. It should be what they're focused on. But what we've all been through in the last year, whether we go 6-0 or 0-6 is really not going to change Dan Buron's life. It's not going to change, Anthony Morrison's life or some of the other kids, but we're going to be faced with adversity. How you handle that, I think, prepares you for life. So we've all been dealt with a lot of adversity, and I think the football players can handle that because they have to with me, I don't know. It's kind of corny, I guess I'm getting, but no, I just need to enjoy it and just realize that I've been a very fortunate guy to be able to coach at my alma mater and coach some great kids, a lot of them over the years. And probably I look back, the most proud thing is I look at kids now that I realize they're all grown men, but they're all very successful in life. And I see them in the communities raising families. And so that's probably, whether they ran for touchdowns or blocked well was great at the time. But hopefully we had a little, my staff and I have had a little help in developing them become good citizens, I don't know.
Oh, that's good. And lastly, the big question, any plans for life after BR?
Well, I hope I have a long life after BI. I'm retiring as an educator because of the retirement system. I'm not going, I'm not, going to be locked up in my house. I don't know. My wife might try to lock me up, but she'll take off without me. But no, I'm only kidding. No, it's like I say, everybody works hard I don't have any concrete plans as far as coaching or anything. I just, I'm retiring as an athletic director, from my full-time position at Bridgewater-Raynham, and I just personally don't believe I should stay on coaching football. I just think, and I'm not knocking people to do that. I think that's great, and I probably could. But it's time. It's time for someone as athletic director and football coach to come into Bridgewater-Raynham and replace me. And one thing I know. No one's irreplaceable. They're going to have football next year. They're going to have sports, and someone will, I say that to my football players all the time. We're going to play a game Friday night or Saturday with or without you. So if you don't want to do the right things in school or do the thing, and you don't want to follow the rules, life goes on. So, so the BR part of it, although I will, trust me, I'll follow it and keep, my eye on things and wish them well. I would love to coach football somewhere. I don't have to be a head coach. I really don't want to be a head coach. People don't realize being a head coach is a lot more difficult than everybody wants to be a head coach until you're a head coach. I wanted to be a head coach in the worst way. And now it's like, wow, just so many things. And unless you've done it, and I'm not talking just football, I'm talking any sport, unless you've been a head coach, and I don't care if it's, youth basketball team or whatever, it's different because everybody is, pulling at you. So my best time as a coach is the 2 hours out on the field where I can just coach and there's no distractions, and I don't know if I could offer to some other program, just be a position coach and be, a sounding board for a head coach. Some of my best, I have a lot of assistants over the years that were former head coaches, and they've been awesome because you can, and not that the other assistants who weren't head coaches aren't awesome either. You bounce things off, and it's just experience, So I'll do something. I'm going to stay active. I really don't have. My wife and I will travel a little bit. I'm going to be okay. I have a painting business that I can expand that a little bit, and so any viewers out there, you need some. Paint job, give me a call. We'll give you a price, free estimates. But no, I'll be busy. I can't sit still. I'll be very active. And if I stay home, I would literally drive my wife crazy. And she's a great lady, and she's not going to put up with that. That's for sure. So I'll be fine. But thank you for asking.
Well, Coach, if you have time, we'd love to have you up in the booth at BTV calling some games.
I would love to do that. I did. I think I came down to the Bridgewater State game one time when we Mass Maritime, and I probably talked too much. You guys took some airtime away from me, but I could give my perspective on things. It might not be, accurate, but it'll be, it's
got to be more accurate than me.
Oh, you're pretty good. I got to give you credit. You and John Luck. John is a little more critical of me than you are, but no, you guys. Jeff and you and John, all the crew, I can't thank you guys enough for what you do for BR football, but for all BR athletics. You guys really, I mean, it's professionally done. And I look back, they were showing some of the classics there at Thanksgiving going way back. Just the technology has gotten so much better, and, what you guys can do, it's awesome. But there's a lot of people that can't get to a game nowadays. And, my mom, God rest, she's in a nursing home now, but, for the last couple of years, she couldn't get out to a game, and she looked forward to those, the cable broadcasts, and no, you guys have been great, and you guys just you're doing the right thing. You're getting exposure for the kids, get them out there, and I mean, all your programs are great. It's very informational. So I have always said this: BR football, BR athletics. A guy named Bill Wilhelm down at WATD, you probably know that name, radio. He always said it: high school sports is the best bang for your buck. I mean, you're gonna maybe pay $5 to get into a BR football game, and see some great teams come in, or pay $5 to get into a basketball game. Mm-hmm. One thing about Bridgewater-Raynham is, in all the sports here, we're a Division I program. I know Division II in football now, but there's 8 divisions. So the league's always been competitive, but the non-league schedules here, we play some pretty good brand of sports here, and there's no agendas. There's no contract negotiations. It's just kids playing for the love of the game, and coaches coaching hard, and it's well worth $5 or $3 for a student to get in and see some great events over the years. I look back at that too as just a teacher and coach and AD. I've been blessed, going to the Garden, going the state baseball championships. Even our fans in this community, both communities have been so supportive of athletics, and like I said earlier, I've been blessed. It's been a great ride for me. But it's now time to hand it over to somebody else, and it'll continue here. It's like I said earlier, no one's irreplaceable, but you guys do a great job. Can't thank you guys enough.
Well, we thank you for the high praise of BTV, and Coach, thank you so much for your time to do this interview. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. I always like a little get my face. Nick Silver and I used to do the news, right? And a few years back, you should pull up some of those old clips. Those were classics. And hey, I can't end this show without thanking my director of football operations, Mr. Nick Sylvia. I've had a good run with Nick. He's an awesome man. He should be if there's ever a mayor of Bridgewater, it would be Nick Sylvia, because everybody knows Nick, and he has been my, talk about a right-hand man. He's always been by my side, and he is a good man, and there's nobody that lives and dies for BR Athletics more than Nick Sylvia. So if I could give a shout out to Nick and thank him, again, it's been a lot of good people behind the scenes. My name's up there like with the football, and I get the credit. I also get the blame, but there's so many other people that behind anything that I've been very fortunate that they let me kind of steer the ship. I've, probably got off course a little bit every now and then, but I got a lot of great people behind me, in my athletic department, Miss Rourke and the administration, Miss Water, they've been very great. They kind of steer me back. And then, at home, like I mentioned, my wife, Leslie, and my son, and I have great family support. And all the coaches here, the head coaches, I know I'm probably going overboard here, but all the head coaches here at Bridgewater, the other sports, they're good people, and they're just easy to manage, and my job's, in that regard has been easy, because it's just, I'm working with great people every day. I probably haven't appreciated that enough over the years, and I got to start realizing that, so